Alexander Reed stared at his reflection in the tinted windows of his Bentley as it glided through Manhattan's streets. The city lights played across his sharp features, illuminating a face that graced the covers of business magazines, but rarely showed genuine emotion. At 35, he had everything money could buy, yet the hollowness in his chest had only grown deeper with each success. "We've arrived, Mr. Reed," his driver announced as the car pulled up to the Winston, an exclusive club where New York's wealthiest gathered beyond the prying eyes of the public. "Wait for my call, James. Could be a late one." The doorman bowed slightly as Alex approached. "Good evening, Mr. Reed. The others are waiting in the Hemingway room." Alex nodded, not bothering with pleasantries. The club's dark wood paneling and leather furnishings surrounded him as he made his way through the main hall, the smell of expensive cigars and whiskey hanging in the air. In the private poker room, 4 men looked up as he entered. Their combined net worth could fund a small nation, but tonight they were just drinking buddies with too much money and too little to prove. "The tech genius finally graces us with his presence," said Marcus Wellington, a hedge fund manager whose shark-like smile never reached his eyes. "What's your excuse this time? Buying another startup to crush?" Alex poured himself 3 fingers of 30-year-old scotch. "Some of us actually run our companies, Marcus, not just move decimal points around for a living." The others laughed, and Alex took his usual seat at the table. He had known these men since his Harvard days, before any of them had made their first million. Sometimes he wondered if they were friends or just convenient witnesses to each other's success. "Gentlemen," said Thomas Barrett, dealing the cards with practiced precision, "the game is Texas Hold'em. Buy-in is $50,000. 5 hours and several bottles later, Alex had won nearly $200,000 and was feeling the pleasant buzz that came with victory and expensive alcohol. The conversation had drifted from business to politics to their latest acquisitions, both material and female. "I just don't understand why dating has to be so complicated," complained Philip Van Housen, who had recently divorced his 3rd wife. "Women either want your money or they want to change you." "That's why I don't bother with relationships," Alex said, signaling for another drink. "Everything's a transaction. You just have to be honest about the terms." Marcus leaned forward. "Says the man who hasn't had a relationship last longer than his company's quarterly reports." "Because I know better than to pretend it's anything else," Alex replied with the confidence of someone who had never been proven wrong. "Marriage is just a business contract with worse terms." "Big talk from a man who's never had to compromise," said Thomas, counting his chips. "Some things can't be solved with money, Alex." Alex laughed, the sound sharp in the mahogany room. "Name one." The men exchanged glances, a silent challenge accepted. "Genuine connection," said Edward Chen, who had been quietly observing the conversation. "You can't buy that." "Sure I can," Alex countered, the alcohol making him bolder than usual. "Everyone has a price. You just need to figure out what currency they prefer." Marcus's eyes glinted mischievously. "Care to put that theory to the test?" "What did you have in mind?" Alex asked, not one to back down from a challenge, especially when his worldview was questioned. "A wager," Marcus proposed, his voice dropping conspiratorially. "Since you believe marriage is just another transaction and everyone has a price, how about you prove it?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "When you leave here tonight, the first homeless person you see, regardless of who they are, you have to marry them and stay married for 1 full year." The room fell silent for a moment before erupting in laughter. "You're insane," Alex said, though the idea had already taken root in his mind. It was outrageous, offensive, and exactly the kind of challenge his ego couldn't resist. "What's the matter? Afraid you can't buy your way through this one?" taunted Philip. Edward, always the voice of reason, intervened. "This is ridiculous. We can't seriously be considering this." "I think we are," Marcus said, his smile widening. "If Alex is right, it should be simple. Find someone desperate, make them an offer they can't refuse, endure a year of inconvenience, and prove his point. "And if I do this, what do I get?" Alex asked, his competitive nature fully engaged. "Besides our eternal respect?" Marcus laughed. "How about 5 million from each of us? That's 20 million reasons to go through with it. And if I back out, or don't make it the full year, then you pay us each 5 million and admit that some things can't be bought." Alex drained his glass, the alcohol burning a path to a decision he would question in the morning. "Deal." The men shook on it, an agreement between billionaires that would alter lives far beyond their privileged circle. As dawn broke over the city, Alex stumbled out of the club, the night's conversation a blur, but the wager crystal clear in his mind. The cool morning air did little to sober him as he instructed his driver to take him home. "The usual route, sir?" James asked. "Yes," Alex mumbled, closing his eyes against the rising sun. The Bentley pulled away from the curb, navigating the awakening streets of Manhattan. Alex was nearly asleep when the car came to a stop at a red light near Central Park. He opened his eyes, annoyed at the delay, when he saw her. A woman sat on a bench near the park entrance, a cardboard sign propped against a small cart of belongings. Her oversized coat couldn't hide her full figure, and her face was partially obscured by a worn baseball cap. She wasn't asking for money, just sitting there watching the city wake up. "James," Alex said suddenly, "pull over." The driver looked surprised but followed the instruction, bringing the car to a smooth stop near the bench. "Wait here," Alex commanded, stepping out into the morning chill. The woman looked up as he approached, wariness evident in her expression. Up close, he could see she was perhaps in her early 30s, with intelligent brown eyes that assessed him cautiously. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice surprisingly clear and articulate. Alex stood there, the absurdity of what he was about to do momentarily stopping him, but $20 million and his pride were on the line. "This is going to sound crazy," he began, "but I have a proposition for you." "I'm not interested in whatever you're selling," she replied, gathering her belongings as if to leave. "I'm not selling anything. I'm offering a business arrangement." Alex took a deep breath. "I want to marry you." The woman's expression shifted from wariness to disbelief. "Excuse me?" "Marriage, you and me, for 1 year." The words tumbled out with alcohol-fueled confidence. "You'll get a new life, financial security, a place to live. When the year is up, we divorce, and you get a settlement that will ensure you never have to sit on a park bench again." She stood up, and for a moment, Alex thought she might slap him. Instead, she studied his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Why would you offer something like that to a complete stranger?" she asked. "Does it matter?" Alex countered. "It's a good deal. Most people would jump at it." "Most people aren't me," she said simply. "I'm not saying yes or no. I'm asking why." Alex hadn't expected questions. In his experience, throwing money at problems usually solved them without explanation. But something about her directness compelled him to respond. "It's complicated. Let's just say I need a wife for a year and you need a break from—" He gestured vaguely at her belongings. She continued to watch him, her gaze unnervingly perceptive. "My name is Olivia. What's yours?" "Alexander Reed," he said, surprised by the simple question. "Well, Alexander Reed, if you're serious about this offer, you can find me here tomorrow, when you're sober." She sat back down, effectively dismissing him. "We can discuss terms then." Alex was not accustomed to being dismissed, especially by someone who should be grateful for his offer. But as he stood there on the sidewalk, the morning sun illuminating the strange tableau they created, the disheveled billionaire and the homeless woman with dignity, he realized this might be more complicated than he had anticipated. "Tomorrow then," he agreed, walking back to his waiting car. As the Bentley pulled away, he caught a glimpse of Olivia in the side mirror. She was writing something in a small notebook, a slight smile playing on her lips. Alex had no way of knowing that the woman he had just proposed to wasn't homeless at all, or that the notebook contained the beginnings of an article that would change both their lives forever. Alexander Reed woke up in his penthouse with a pounding headache and fragments of memories from the night before. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the sleek, minimalist space that cost more than most people would earn in a lifetime. He reached for his phone and saw 12 missed calls from his friends, an unusual occurrence that triggered the full memory of last night's wager. "You idiot," he muttered to himself, pressing his palms against his temples. His assistant, Vanessa, knocked twice before entering with his usual hangover cure: black coffee, 2 aspirin, and a green smoothie he rarely touched. "Rough night?" she asked, placing the tray on his bedside table. "You could say that." Alex took the pills and coffee, avoiding her gaze. Vanessa had been with him for 5 years and knew him better than anyone, which wasn't saying much. "Your mother called. She wants to know if you're attending the foundation gala next weekend." Alex groaned. The last thing he needed was his mother's scrutiny. Catherine Reed was a formidable woman who had transformed her divorce settlement into a social empire. She had never forgiven Alex for choosing his father's world of technology over her carefully cultivated society connections. "Tell her I'll be there," he said, knowing it was easier than arguing. "And clear my schedule this morning. I have something personal to handle." Vanessa raised an eyebrow but asked no questions. Another reason she was invaluable. "Your 10 o'clock with the board has been confirmed for next week, and the development team needs your feedback on the new security protocol. Email me the details. I'll review them later." After she left, Alex showered and dressed in casual clothes, designer jeans and a simple button-down that cost more than most people's monthly rent. As he rode the elevator down to the lobby, he considered calling Marcus to back out of the bet. 20 million was pocket change compared to the hassle of what he'd proposed. But something stopped him. It wasn't just the money, it was the challenge. The suggestion that there were things his wealth couldn't buy had struck a nerve. His whole life, Alex had used money to create the world he wanted. This would be no different. If anything, it would prove his point once and for all. His driver was waiting with the car. "Central Park entrance," Alex instructed. "Same spot as this morning." The ride was quick at this hour. As they approached the park, Alex felt an unfamiliar nervousness. What if she wasn't there? What if she was, but had changed her mind? Worse, what if she expected some romantic gesture rather than a business arrangement? But there she was, sitting on the same bench, this time with a paper cup of coffee and a book in hand. She wore the same oversized coat, but had replaced the baseball cap with a simple ponytail. Without the shadow of the cap, her face was more visible, with strong features and clear skin that showed no signs of the hardship he'd expected. Alex instructed his driver to wait and approached her bench. "You came back," Olivia said without looking up from her book. "I said I would." Alex took a seat beside her, maintaining some distance. "Have you considered my proposal?" Olivia marked her page and closed the book. "I've thought about little else. It's not every day a stranger offers marriage as a business transaction. And I have questions. A lot of them." She turned to face him fully. "Starting with why you really want to do this. The truth this time." Alex weighed his options. He could lie, but something told him she would see through it. "It's a bet," he admitted. "A stupid, drunken bet with friends who think I can't prove that everything has a price." Instead of being offended, Olivia laughed, a genuine sound that caught him off guard. "At least you're honest. How much?" "Excuse me? How much is the bet for?" 20 million. She whistled. "That's quite a wager. And what exactly are the terms?" "I marry the first homeless person I saw after leaving the club, that's you, and stay married for a full year. I win by proving I can essentially buy someone's companionship for the right price." Olivia's expression hardened slightly. "And what makes you think I'm homeless?" Alex gestured to her cart of belongings. "Evidence suggests you don't have stable housing." "Appearances can be deceiving, Mr. Reed," She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. But let's say I am exactly what you think. What would this arrangement entail for me? Alex shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't thought that far ahead. You'd move into my penthouse, attend some social functions, basically just exist as my wife in name while we lead separate lives. After a year, we divorce, and you get a settlement that would set you up comfortably. How comfortably? $2 million. Olivia didn't react to the figure as he expected. No widened eyes or excited gasp. She simply nodded as if he'd offered a reasonable dinner menu price. And what would you expect from me during this year? Physically, I mean. Alex was taken aback by her directness. Nothing like that. This is purely a business arrangement. You'd have your own room, your own space. What about my privacy? Would there be rules about what I can do, where I can go? You'd need to maintain appearances when we're in public. Beyond that, I don't care what you do with your time. Olivia was quiet for a moment, studying him with those perceptive eyes. And if I agree, when would this start? As soon as possible. The wedding would need to be within the next week or two. A rushed society wedding will raise eyebrows. Alex shrugged. Let them talk. That's not part of the bet. Olivia seemed to be making mental calculations. I'll need something in writing, a contract that protects both of us. Of course, I'll have my lawyers draw something up. Not your lawyers, independent counsel for each of us. Alex was surprised by her sophistication but nodded. Fine. Anything else? Yes. I want half the money up front, in an account under my name only. The other half when the year is complete. Her confidence was jarring. This was not how he'd imagined this conversation going. The woman before him spoke like someone who understood negotiation, not someone desperate for a lifeline. That's a lot of trust to place in a stranger, he said. Goes both ways, doesn't it? Olivia countered. You're bringing a stranger into your home, your life. I'm risking a year of my life on the promise that you'll hold up your end when it's over. She had a point. $1 million up front, the rest after. And I'll need some assurances that you won't just take the money and disappear. Such as regular appearances at public events, maintaining the appearance of a real marriage in my social circle. Olivia considered this. I can do that. And your last name? For the marriage license. He realized he didn't even know that basic information. Carter, Olivia Carter. Alex extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Olivia Carter? She hesitated for just a moment before taking his hand. Her grip was firm and confident. We have a deal, Alexander Reed. May neither of us live to regret it. As they shook hands, Alex felt a strange mix of triumph and unease. He had faced down tech giants and corporate rivals, but something about this woman's calm acceptance of their bizarre arrangement left him feeling like he wasn't the one in control. I'll have the contract drafted today, he said, standing up. How can I reach you to arrange the next steps? Olivia reached into her coat pocket and handed him a basic flip phone. My number is programmed in. And Alexander? This doesn't have to be adversarial. We're both getting something we want. As Alex walked back to his car, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a deal with someone far more complex than he had initially judged. The woman on that park bench didn't fit neatly into the box he'd placed her in, and for someone who liked order and control as much as Alex did, that was unsettling. What he didn't see was Olivia pulling out her notebook as soon as he left, writing furiously with a smile that would have given him pause had he witnessed it. The first phase of her plan had worked perfectly. Now came the hard part, living under the same roof as the subject of her investigation without blowing her cover. Week 1, she wrote. Subject takes the bait. The Reed family attorney stared at Alex as if he had lost his mind. Let me make sure I understand correctly, Howard Briggs said, removing his glasses and pinching the bridge of his nose. You want me to draft a marriage contract for you and a woman you met 2 days ago. A woman who was, by your own admission, sitting on a park bench with all her belongings in a cart. That's correct, Alex replied, leaning back in the leather chair across from Howard's imposing mahogany desk. The attorney had served the Reed family for 20 years. He had handled Alex's first business acquisition, his father's estate, and countless other legal matters with calm efficiency. But this request had clearly caught him off guard. Alexander, as your family's attorney and someone who has known you since you were a teenager, may I speak frankly? Would it stop you if I said no? Howard ignored the sarcasm. This sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Have you considered the implications? The potential for fraud, blackmail, or worse? Not to mention what your mother will say. My mother's opinion isn't relevant to this decision, Alex said, though he knew facing Catherine Reed's wrath would be unavoidable. As for the risks, that's why I'm here. I need a contract that protects my interests while fulfilling the terms of the agreement, which are 1 year of marriage, $1 million upfront, another $1 million upon completion, the appearance of a genuine relationship in public. Howard's eyebrows rose further with each condition. And what does this woman get out of it besides the money? Security, stability, a way out of her current situation. Alex shifted in his seat. Look, I know it sounds crazy, but the decision is made. Will you draft the contract, or do I need to find someone who will? Howard sighed, recognizing the stubborn set of Alex's jaw. I'll draft it, but I insist on a thorough background check, prenuptial agreement, and confidentiality clauses that would make a government official sweat. Fine. Just have it ready by tomorrow. The wedding is scheduled for Saturday. This Saturday? That's 4 days away. Small ceremony at my penthouse. Judge Wilson owes me a favor. Howard looked like he wanted to say more, but simply shook his head. I'll have everything ready. And Alex? I hope you know what you're doing. Alex wasn't sure he did, but he wasn't about to admit that to anyone. Olivia sat in a coffee shop across town, laptop open in front of her. The email from her editor glowed on the screen. Update on the Reed piece? Sources say he's making moves to acquire Palmer Tech. Could be the angle we need. She closed the email without responding and opened a new document. The original assignment had been straightforward. An exposé on Alexander Reed and his cutthroat business practices. His company, Reed Innovations, had been accused of everything from wage theft to privacy violations. But concrete evidence had proven elusive until now. Olivia had spent months researching Alex's patterns, learning his habits. The park bench strategy had been a calculated risk based on his morning route. She had expected to perhaps catch a glimpse of him, maybe even engineer a brief interaction that could lead to a future interview request. Never in her wildest dreams had she anticipated his outrageous proposal. A proposal that had given her unprecedented access to the very man she was investigating. Her phone buzzed with a text from a number she now recognized as Alex's. Contract being drafted. Need your current address for background check. Olivia had prepared for this. She texted back an address, a friend's apartment where she had arranged to receive mail. Her real apartment, filled with research materials on Reed Innovations, would remain her secret base of operations. Car will pick you up tomorrow at 2 p.m. to review paperwork. She confirmed and put down her phone, feeling a twinge of guilt. The man she had met was arrogant and misguided, but he wasn't the monster her research had suggested. Part of her wondered if she was crossing an ethical line with this deception. But then, she remembered the interviews with former employees who had been discarded when they were no longer useful. The small businesses crushed under Reed's expansion plans. The privacy violations that had affected millions of users. No, this story needed to be told, and she had been handed the keys to the kingdom. The next few days passed in a blur of legal meetings, background checks, and preparations. Alex was impressed, despite himself, with how Olivia handled the process. She reviewed the contract with a careful eye, requested reasonable adjustments, and asked intelligent questions that suggested she was more educated than her circumstances implied. Howard had found little in her background check: community college education, sporadic employment history, no criminal record. Nothing that raised alarms, but nothing that explained her articulate manner and sharp insights either. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth for New York in early spring. Alex had arranged for a small ceremony in his penthouse, attended only by the judge, Howard as a witness, and his assistant Vanessa as the second required witness. His friends from the poker night had demanded to attend, but Alex had refused. Their presence would turn the event into a spectacle, and while this whole arrangement was essentially a joke to win a bet, something in him resisted making Olivia the punchline. At precisely noon, the elevator opened to reveal Olivia in a simple white dress that complemented her figure. Her hair was styled in loose waves, and she wore minimal makeup that enhanced rather than masked her features. The transformation from the woman on the bench was remarkable. "You clean up well," Alex said, immediately regretting the condescension in his tone. Olivia didn't seem offended. "You sound surprised. Did you expect me to show up in rags?" "No, I just—" Alex stopped, aware that Vanessa and Howard were watching with poorly concealed interest. "You look nice. Thank you for taking this seriously." $2 million is always serious," she replied with a small smile. The ceremony itself was brief. Judge Wilson, an old family friend who had agreed to the unusual circumstances without asking too many questions, led them through the standard vows. Alex had expected to feel nothing as they exchanged rings, simple bands he had purchased without much thought. But a strange tension filled him as he slid the gold band onto Olivia's finger. "By the power vested in me by the state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife," the judge concluded, looking between them expectantly. "You may kiss the bride." This hadn't been discussed in their arrangement. Alex hesitated, looking at Olivia with uncertain eyes. She solved the dilemma by leaning forward and placing a brief, chaste kiss on his lips. A kiss that, despite its simplicity, sent an unexpected jolt through him. After signing the marriage certificate and thanking the judge, Alex found himself alone with his new wife as Howard and Vanessa discreetly excused themselves. "So," Olivia said, looking around the vast penthouse that was now technically her home too. "What happens now, husband?" The words sounded strange in Alex's ears. "Now we have lunch. I've had food brought in. Then I'll show you to your room and the rest of the place." They ate in awkward silence at the dining table overlooking Central Park. Alex found himself studying her as she ate with proper etiquette. Another surprise. "You keep staring," she noted without looking up from her plate. "Something wrong?" "Just trying to figure you out," he admitted. "You're not what I expected." "And what did you expect? Someone desperate and pathetic who would fall at your feet with gratitude?" The accuracy of her assessment made him uncomfortable. "I didn't think that far ahead. This whole thing was impulsive." "That much is obvious." She took a sip of water. "For a man who prides himself on strategic thinking in business, you've taken a remarkable risk on this bet. How do you know about my business approach?" Olivia's expression remained neutral. "You're Alexander Reed. Your face has been on the cover of Business Week. Your reputation precedes you. And yet you agreed to marry me, knowing that reputation." "We all do what we need to survive," she said simply. "Your reputation matters less to me than the opportunity you've presented." After lunch, Alex showed her around the penthouse, the gym, the office he rarely used, the guest rooms, and finally, the room that would be hers. It was spacious and impersonal, decorated in neutral tones like a high-end hotel suite. "You can change anything you want in here," he told her. "Consider it your space." Olivia set down the small suitcase she had brought, another surprise, as he had expected her to arrive with the cart of belongings from the park. "Thank you. I appreciate the privacy." An awkward silence fell between them. "I have some work to do," Alex said finally. "Make yourself at home. Dinner will be at 7, though you're not obligated to join me." As he turned to leave, Olivia called after him. "Alex, for what it's worth, I'll uphold my end of this arrangement. You won't regret your impulsive decision." He nodded, unsure how to respond. As he walked to his home office, he tried to shake the feeling that he had just entered a game where he didn't know all the rules. In her new room, Olivia quietly unpacked her suitcase, which contained carefully selected clothes and personal items that supported her cover story. Once alone, she removed a small notebook from a hidden pocket in her dress and wrote a single line, "Day 1, I'm in." The news of Alexander Reed's sudden marriage broke 3 days after the ceremony. The story first appeared on a gossip website with the headline, "Tech Billionaire's Mystery Bride. Who is Olivia Carter?" By evening, Alex's phone was flooded with messages from friends, business associates, and most persistently, his mother. "You need to talk to her," Vanessa said, handing him his third cup of coffee as he sat in his home office, ignoring the constant buzzing of his phone. "She's called 12 times in the last hour." Alex sighed. "Fine, put her through on the office line." Moments later, Catherine Reed's voice filled the room, sharp with indignation. "Alexander James Reed, what on earth have you done?" "Hello to you too, Mother." "Don't take that tone with me. I woke up to find my son's marriage splashed across every gossip column in New York. A marriage to a complete stranger, no less." "She's not a complete stranger to me," Alex replied, knowing how weak that sounded. "Really? Then please enlighten me. Where did you meet this woman? What's her background? Her family? Does she have the slightest idea how to navigate our world?" Alex pinched the bridge of his nose. "It's complicated." "Uncomplicate. I deserve an explanation." "You'll meet her at the Foundation Gala next weekend," he said, avoiding the demand. "Judge for yourself then." The conversation ended with his mother's frosty promise that she certainly would. As Alex hung up, he noticed Olivia standing in the doorway of his office. She was dressed in simple jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. He wondered how long she had been standing there. "Family drama?" she asked. "Something like that," he admitted. "The story's out. We'll need to make our first public appearance soon." Olivia nodded, entering the room and taking a seat across from his desk. "I saw the articles. They've done quite a bit of digging. Found my community college records, my last known address." "Are you concerned?" "No, there's nothing to find that would contradict our story." She studied him with those perceptive eyes that always made him feel like she could see right through him. "But we should get our story straight about how we met." Alex leaned back in his chair. "What's wrong with the truth? We met in the park." "And what? You saw me and were so overcome with emotion that you proposed on the spot." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "No one will believe that, especially not your mother." "She was right, of course. What do you suggest?" "We've been seeing each other quietly for months. We met at a coffee shop near the park. I was working there briefly. It was a whirlwind romance that we kept private until we decided to make it official." "That's still thin, but believable enough, especially if we can fake some chemistry." Olivia leaned forward. "Which brings me to my next point. We need to get to know each other better if we're going to convince people this is real." Alex checked his watch. "I have a board meeting in an hour." "Tonight then. Dinner. We'll exchange basic information. Likes, dislikes, histories. Enough to pass as a couple who actually know each other." The request was reasonable, and Alex found himself nodding. "Fine, 7 o'clock." That evening, they sat across from each other at the dining table. The chef had prepared a meal and left, giving them privacy. Awkward silence filled the space between them until Olivia spoke. 20 questions, she suggested. "Basic stuff first? Favorite color?" Alex looked at her with surprise. "Are we in middle school?" "We're married people who don't know each other's favorite colors. That's worse than middle school." She took a sip of wine. "Mine's blue. Dark blue. Green," he found himself answering. "Forest green." "See? Not so hard. Favorite food?" "Italian. Specifically, my grandmother's lasagna." The answer came automatically, surprising even himself with its sentimentality. "I wouldn't have pegged you for a comfort food guy. Olivia said with a small smile. Mine's street tacos from this little place in Brooklyn. Best I've ever had. The questions continued through dinner. Favorite books. He preferred historical biographies. She loved mysteries. Music. Classical for him, indie rock for her. And childhood memories. Alex found himself sharing more than he had intended, including stories about his father that he rarely discussed. He taught me to code when I was 8, Alex said, refilling their wine glasses. We would spend weekends building simple programs together. It was the only time I felt like I had his full attention. What happened to him? Olivia asked softly. Heart attack when I was in college. He built the foundation of Reed Innovations, but he never saw what it became. Alex rarely spoke about his father's death, but something about the quiet dinner and Olivia's attentive listening made it easier. Your parents? Mom was a teacher in Portland. Dad left when I was young. She raised me alone until cancer took her during my second year of college. Olivia's voice was steady, but Alex could see the grief in her eyes. That's when I dropped out. Couldn't afford to continue. I'm sorry, he said, and meant it. She shrugged. Life happens. You adapt. As the evening progressed, their conversation flowed more naturally. When they moved to the living room with coffee, Alex realized 3 hours had passed. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had a conversation this long that wasn't about business. One last question for tonight, Olivia said, curling her legs under her on the sofa. Why did you really make that bet? The truth. Alex considered deflecting, but found himself wanting to give an honest answer. Because I've spent my entire life believing that everything and everyone has a price. It's how I've built my company, my wealth, my life. The idea that there are things money can't buy. It challenges everything I think I know about the world. And what if they're right? She asked. What if there are things that can't be bought? Then I've built my life on a flawed foundation, he admitted, the wine making him more philosophical than usual. Not a comforting thought. Olivia studied him for a long moment. Thank you for being honest. Your turn. Why did you really agree to this arrangement? And don't say the money. $2 million is life-changing, but it's not enough to marry a stranger. Her eyes flickered away briefly before meeting his gaze again. A fresh start. A chance to reinvent myself. The money helps, but it's more about the opportunity to step into a new life. She set down her coffee cup. And I was curious about you. About me? The man behind the headlines. You're not exactly portrayed kindly in the press. Alex snorted. The press doesn't understand what it takes to build something lasting in this industry. And what does it take? Olivia asked, her eyes suddenly intent. Sacrifice. Difficult decisions. Sometimes stepping on people who are in your way. He shrugged. Not everyone has the stomach for it. A small frown crossed Olivia's face, but she quickly smoothed it away. It's getting late. We should probably call it a night. As they headed to their respective rooms, Alex found himself watching her walk away, struck by an unfamiliar feeling he couldn't quite name. Their conversation had left him unsettled in a way business negotiations never did. Inside her room, Olivia locked the door and pulled out her notebook from its hiding place. She wrote for nearly an hour, documenting their conversation with particular attention to his comments about business practices. His casual admission of stepping on people could prove useful in her article, but as she prepared for bed, Olivia found herself troubled by the complexity of the man she was investigating. The Alex who shared stories about his father and admitted his philosophical uncertainties didn't fit neatly into the villain narrative she had constructed. Keep your focus, she reminded herself. He's the same man who destroyed companies and lives without remorse. One honest conversation doesn't change that. Yet as she drifted off to sleep, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that this assignment had just become far more complicated than she had anticipated.